Primetime Local News Late Edition, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening, welcome to Primetime Local News Late Edition. I'm Jasmine King. Our Abby St. John talked to Tyler Lorenz on how residents in recovery has to alter their day-to-day operations due to COVID-19.
Today, I am happy to be joined here with a familiar face, Tyler Lorenz, with residents in recovery, and we're going to be chatting about how residents in recovery has been operating since COVID-19 has spread. Tyler, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell me a little bit about how or what residents in recovery is doing since the spread has become worldwide and has turned into the pandemic that we're experiencing today.
Yeah, so almost a month ago now, mid-March, we actually made the decision to quarantine all the houses, just to make sure that nobody in any of the houses had contracted the virus. Since then, we've kept, for the most part, kept the houses separate. We did spend a little bit of time at the office for a week or so a couple weeks ago, just interacting and, breaking it up a bit. But we're back to, keeping the houses completely isolated from the community, just for everybody's safety. We have a number of vulnerable people, high-risk people in the houses, older gentlemen, people with lung issues. So it's really important that we keep them safe and make sure that nobody gets the virus, because if anybody gets it, it would spread through pretty quickly at the close quarters.
Yeah, and how have you had to alter some of your programming, or how has operations changed since the spread of it, besides the quarantine you had just mentioned?
Sure. So we've closed the recovery center downtown. I'm the only one. Well, not the only one. Myself and another staff come in. I do programming now over Zoom, so all the houses are set up with a laptop, and we do Zoom programming every morning. We let other people in the community join in on that as well. As long as they have, done an intake and that sort of thing.
And so how has COVID-19 affected how residents in recovery runs on a day-to-day basis, and for the people who are in residence in recovery?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle because many of them, in their active addiction, isolated, right? So, this is a really triggering thing for them to be told that they have to stay in isolation. Meetings have been a huge piece of their recoveries as well, and not being able to go to face-to-face meetings in the community, really set them back for a while. But they're getting pretty used to the Zoom meetings now, and things are kind of normalizing as best that they can, given the circumstances. So it's just been a bit of a transition for sure.
And so, considering that they have to stay indoors and they are in those isolations and they're feeling, what have you, besides the Zoom meetings every day, what have you been kind of doing, or what have they been given to kind of keep their minds busy or to keep themselves busy while they are stuck indoors?
Yeah, a lot of them do some recovery work, being in contact with their sponsors, and there's other things that they can do. Some of them have got back to drawing and painting and that sort of thing, a lot of craft stuff. Some of them have spent a lot of time cooking. They're keeping busy for the most part. There's definitely some boring days, but it kind of goes with the territory.
And has this, since having to close the downtown location, has this hindered new residents coming in for programming? And if so, how long do you think that this will, how long have you been having to stop taking in new residents?
Yeah, we have not accepted any new clients yet. We're trying to figure that piece out, a way to quarantine people before we add them into the house. Haven't really figured out a safe and productive way to do that. Unfortunately, when we take new clients, they require a lot of supervision, especially for those first few weeks. So it's a piece that we're trying to figure out because we do have some empty beds and we would like to add new people in there. Our waiting list is still well over 70 and expected to grow even more with this pandemic. So we really need to figure that piece out, and we'll be working hard this week to try and do that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for joining me today, and hopefully things start to get a little bit better very, very soon. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. Have a great day.
You too.
It is time now for today's retrospect. Here's Blake Nath.
This week in retrospect. Back in '96, Onion Lake was preparing to host the Saskatchewan Indian Winter Games.
Good afternoon, Saskatchewan Indian Winter Games. Can I help you?
For the past year, Grant Whitstone has been very busy. If he's not answering the phone, he's doing a number of other jobs in preparation for the upcoming Saskatchewan Indian Winter Games.
What has to be done now is mainly there's going to be a couple of meetings set up with all the bands, mainly the tribal councils, and we'll be handing out the information regarding, like I said, the technical package and the requirements for all the athletes to participate in the games.
With over 1,500 athletes expected to converge on Onion Lake, Whitstone isn't leaving any stone unturned.
And in 2002, volunteers in Vermilion came together to discuss ways to beautify the city in hopes of winning an award.
You have everything. You truly do.
Close to 50 interested volunteers gathered this afternoon in Vermilion to discuss ways to beautify the town. Guest speaker Bernice Knight was on hand. Knight is the Alberta Liaison for Communities in Bloom and proud resident of Millet. Her town won 2 provincial titles and were last year's national winners of the competition. Knight says Vermilion has a lot of potential to win a title, but must have a strong and committed volunteer base first.
The number one thing is your volunteerism. That's the number one part for Communities in Bloom, is working together and creating things to beautify and enhance your community as on a whole, involving the businesses and the younger folk around town and the seniors.
And that's all for this week's Retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Businesses around the world have had to change the way they function with the current pandemic. We spoke with Lucky and Associates on how they have been coping during this difficult time. I'm joined here with Michael Naylor with Lucky and Associates, and during this pandemic, a lot of businesses have been changing the way they function, and you guys are one of those businesses.
Yeah, for sure. We've had to change the way we do things around here over the last few weeks. Yeah, definitely.
And then if people were still wanting to come and, get help and get information, how can they do so?
Yeah, certainly having a lot of calls, a lot of questions about how benefits work, all that kind of stuff. We are still available via telephone, email, all the usual routes. We're just not taking appointments in person. So we do also have a Dropbox entry way to accept documents and the like as well.
And for somebody who didn't really know, I know you kind of just mentioned it, but what are some of the services that you guys are still offering?
Well, really, our full suite of services are still available. The only change is how we're delivering those services. So, as I mentioned, really can't do face-to-face meetings currently, but otherwise, everything that we've always been doing for clients in terms of service and products are still available.
And now more than ever, people are having questions, about EI and CRP. What can they do and how can they get help from you guys?
Well, certainly a phone call to talk about the situation, whether or not they might apply for some of these benefits. There's also a lot of really good government links that are up, and I think we can perhaps get you some of those. But those are the two best ways. But certainly, always happy to take a phone call. Even it might be just a quick, 2-minute question, maybe a bit of uncertainty as to some of these programs that are out there. We're definitely happy to help folks out with that.
And also with people who are having questions about, if they qualify for a wage subsidy or anything like that, and you guys will be able to help them out with that as well?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we're still open to do that. So if people have questions.
And then for some people, during this time, they know they can't really go out to their job. They can't really do this, but if they still want help with you guys, so they can just phone you, or what are some other ways that they may be able to contact you guys?
Phone and email are still the best ways to contact us. I think all the partners here do have direct lines in addition to just phoning through the reception. So the doors are very much open, although not in a literal sense, I guess, but very much open to help folks out and assist them with their problems.
And if anyone's looking for help for potentially with their paying off like loans or mortgages, would you guys be able to help them with that at all?
Well, I think it depends on the situation. We could certainly try and assist with figuring out the best way to do that. We don't negotiate on behalf of clients with creditors typically, so that's something that's a little bit different. But I'd hesitate to say no to anything. We kind of end up helping out our clients with a really broad spectrum of things. So,
and for the best way they can reach you guys is to go to your website?
Yeah, we've got all of our contact information is on the website. We also have a Facebook account, and so website is probably the best in terms of contact.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Coming up, we talk to the men's shelter.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Welcome back. The Lloydminster Men's Shelter has been another business having to change their operation during the COVID-19 outbreak. Our Eric Bay sat down with Valerie Lazicki for an update on the men's shelter.
I'm joined now by Valerie Lazicki of the Lloydminster Men's Shelter. Now, obviously, you guys have been going through some changes with how you operate in response to the COVID-19 crisis. So just talk about how you guys have had to change your operating strategy.
Well, originally we were starting at our shelter here by having a cutoff of the people allowed into the shelter to allow for more distancing. We changed the way we do food service to have less people in the dining room at a time, just some of that kind of stuff.
And you guys have had to change locations here. So just talk about the move and why it was necessary.
We did. We actually are guests of the Knox Presbyterian Church for a temporary time through all of this. It allows for more space for us to be able to better distance our clients as well as our staff, and to allow us to have a few more clients in-house as well.
And now you mentioned still taking in clients, but having to limit that number. But again, just to reiterate, you guys are still accepting people and continuing to work throughout all this.
We are putting in the work. We're showing up every day. We're making sure everyone is sheltered and fed and warm and all of those things that we need to keep doing.
Now, I had also seen that you guys are looking for volunteers. So are you still looking? And if so, what does it take for somebody to volunteer? What does a volunteer for you guys look like?
For us right now, we're looking at volunteers for our drop-in center. So we have a daytime drop-in center that's open, and we are always looking for volunteers just to help with meal prep and that kind of thing.
Now you guys are also looking for food donations as well. So what kind of food donations are you looking for? And if people do want to drop something off, how can they do that?
They could, actually the best way is to give us a call here at the office, 306-825-3977, and then just make arrangements to drop off or for us to pick up. We're looking for anything non-perishable, really. I always say, when people ask, I always say anything that'll make a casserole or something like that. A one-dish meal is always helpful. We're also, of course, at this time, donations are down, and we're always interested in monetary donations. People have been calling and asking how they can help us out financially. So some people are sending a check in. Other people, we're advising them to go to canadahelps.ca. It's an easy way they can donate to us from the comfort of their home. So if they go to canadahelps.ca and look up the men's shelter, they can just provide a donation right online.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time and sitting down with me. I know it's obviously a very busy time for you guys, but again, appreciate that and stay safe.
Public health orders have forced many local businesses to close their doors and change the way they operate. Local yoga studio Yogaste has been using YouTube to hold virtual yoga classes. Jace Mackey spoke with Rochelle Cube to learn more.
I'm here with Rochelle Cube from Yogaste Studio. It's great to have you with me.
Thank you.
And I just wanted, can you start off by just telling me a little bit about what you guys have been doing during this kind of unprecedented time?
Definitely. As soon as the whole COVID, virus came into effect, I thought, what am I going to do? Mostly I was not really worried about the profit side of things. I was more worried about my little yogis and how I was going to keep them busy. So my mom actually suggested, why don't I try doing some Facebook Live classes? And I was like, oh my goodness, I love going live. Like, that's the greatest thing ever. Why not? So I went live a couple times and it ended up being a really big hit. And now we're on YouTube as well.
And how did it kind of go about? Was it kind of difficult to kind of maybe get the technology set up or figure out how things were going to work?
At first, finding out which platform was the best. I was on Facebook originally, and then I had some issues with it cutting out and whatnot. But you know what? We didn't really plan for any of this to happen. So I feel like a lot of people were really forgiving when the chats would cut out or the videos would cut out. So basically, I went to YouTube because YouTube right now has been the best. It's just I don't have as much live followers, but the great thing with YouTube is people can always come back and they can view it and they can review it at a different time.
And what have people been saying to you that have been maybe taking part or even just find out about it and think it's a cool idea?
Yeah, no, definitely. I've had lots of positive feedback from the parents. They turn on the kids' yoga class to do for their child, and then they end up getting involved. So a lot of really great feedback from the parents saying how much they enjoyed the class versus the littles themselves. So it's really good to see the connection between the adults and the kids or whoever's there, because like I always get them into doing some partner poses. So it's not necessarily with your brother and sister or whoever you're doing yoga with. Sometimes it's nice to drag that adult in there and get them involved.
That's awesome. And obviously typically you'll have normal yoga classes and stuff, but since you can't do that, how are you guys kind of trying to, you're not charging for these online classes, but is there any way that you guys are kind of trying to raise money or?
Definitely. I have a GoFundMe set up right now, and it's just a vague one. I just put that it's for equipment. So if I did have to pursue going into the virtual online side of things, I would like to get something, a nicer camera. At this time, I'm currently taking my computer and moving it from home to the studio back and forth every day because my daughter needs to use the computer for schoolwork in the afternoon. So I'm currently dragging my computer back and forth, but you know what? I really don't mind. But I do have a GoFundMe set up, If anyone wants to contribute, $2, $5, whatever you want, the option is there. The studio will never say no to a donation.
Awesome. And if someone wanted to kind of participate, maybe their kids wanted to take part, or they just wanted to see what it was like, how can someone find that, and what are the times maybe if they wanted to watch it live?
Definitely. You can find all the information at my Yoga Stay Facebook page. That's probably the best way to follow me, because then when we do move back into the studio classes, you'll have all the information there. So you are more than welcome to go to my Facebook Yoga, and you can get all the information from there.
And is there anything else you want to add before we end this today?
No, not at the moment. I just want to thank everyone for the continued support. Without the Lloydminster and Community Yoga Stay would not survive maybe this crisis, but we are going to survive it, and we're really excited for what the future has to bring.
All right. Thanks so much for talking to me, and I hope you stay healthy.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys. Take care.
Off. First General Services. When you require prompt emergency service, the first F word that should come to your mind should be First General Services.
This weekend, the hockey world, the sports world, and the entire world in general is mourning the loss of Edmonton Oiler Colby Cave. Joining me to talk about this is Tony Brar from Oilers TV. Tony, thanks for taking the time.
You bet, Evan, anytime.
Well, Tony, just to start it off, what was Colby like on the ice? Was his play something that other players took notice of and tried to really model after?
You know what, Evan? I think absolutely, because I think you'd be hard-pressed to find another player that works harder than Colby Cave. And let me put things into perspective for you. I mean, my video producer and a good friend of mine, my colleague Cassidy Collins, he shared a very nice story of Colby Cave on Twitter today, saying that he was engaged in a conversation with Patrick Russell off the ice, and Colby Cave was still on it. They chatted for a few minutes, and he was still practicing away. And then by the time he was done, he came off the ice with a huge smile on his face and just looked at Cassidy and Patrick Russell and said, "It's a great day to get better, boys." And then he followed that up with some high fives. So I think that just goes into the character that Colby Cave was, into the player that Colby Cave was. He had to earn everything, Evan, as we'll get to when we talk about him being undrafted, but he had to earn everything in the National Hockey League. And getting to see 3 goals in an Oiler uniform firsthand myself was definitely a special feeling.
Now, you kind of touched on it, he came off and said it's a great day to get better. Was that his personality all the time? And, were people really, drawn in by his personality?
100%. I think on the ice, obviously, we talked about his tireless competitiveness and his strong work ethic, but off the ice, he was just an incredibly kind soul, super respectful to everybody. And again, to put this into perspective, and it's a story that my another colleague of mine and a writer for the Edmonton Oilers, Paul Gazzola, shared on Twitter, and I happened to be in the bus for this story. Was he just got called up from Bakersfield to Pittsburgh. We were in Pittsburgh. The Oilers were on the road, and it was a big game, and Colby Cave got in late the night before. So nobody saw Colby Cave yet. And then we took the first bus onto the game, and Colby Cave was aboard. And when all the boys saw Colby Cave, everyone just lit up. Everyone was super excited. Caver, caveman, what's going on? And it was such an incredible experience. I remember looking at Paul and Paul looking at me and just kind of looking at each other and acknowledging the specialty of that moment, because that was the type of person Colby Cave was. If you knew Colby Cave off the ice, you knew that his energy would draw your energy to him,
because that's just how his soul was conformed.
Was that the Pittsburgh game where he scored his incredible lone goal of the year?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he took the puck far side, beat Peterson, and then quickly stripped it to his forehand and beat Matt Murray. That was the 10th shot of the game for the Oilers that game. They're being heavily outshot, 0-0. I believe Pittsburgh had about 24, 25 shots at that point, and then the 10th shot of that game was Colby Cave's best goal in the NHL. And I remember, again, just looking at Paul, it was like a carbon copy of being in the bus, looking at Paul, him looking at me, and just going like, wow, that was incredible.
Now, you mentioned it a little bit before, undrafted, and really had to work his way up, through the playing his whole career in the WHL and then making his way through the Providence Bruins before coming to the Oilers. But being undrafted, he still managed to play 67 career games. Does that just add to his character and who he was?
100%. I think NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman's statement today, one part that really stuck out to me was undrafted, but not undaunted. And he's a Battleford, Saskatchewan product. And I mean, what better word to embody Colby Cave than battling? Because he was on the Swift Current Broncos for 4 years, captained them for 2 years, and then signed on with the Bruins, played 75 games with the Providence Bruins in 2015-16, and then another 76 or so before making his NHL debut in the 2017-18 season. I mean, he really had to battle for everything, and nothing was given to Colby Cave. And he should be proud up in heaven for all the work that went into his great career, and I think his most lasting impact will be off the ice, Evan.
Now, before this, we saw it most recently when Jay Bouwmeester went down, and he got, helpful messages from different players around the league, and it's players that he didn't even necessarily play with. Similar goes for Colby Cave, his condolences from different players around the league. How strong do you think just the hockey community is really sticking together in these kind of times?
You know what? If there's any sort of silver lining, and it's very difficult to say, especially with what happened to the Cave family and his wife Emily, is that we see how strong this hockey culture is and how strong the hockey community is. Because when one of us falls, we all fall. Whether that's media, being a player, management, any other sort of role in hockey, we're all in this together. We're all doing what we do because we all love the game. And I think it's opportunities like this where we all take a step back and appreciate everything for what it is, and appreciating life for what it is, because Colby Cave was just 25 years old. That is an incredibly young soul that is leaving this earth. And just to see a young man like that really puts things into perspective for myself, like many others, of how much we should really cherish this life, and when we do fall, the rest of the hockey community will stand behind us and help us get our back to our own feet. But for now, rest in peace, Colby Cave.
Well, Tony, I appreciate you taking this time, and our condolences go out to Colby's family, his friends, and his teammates.
Evan, thank you very much.
Welcome back. Taking a look at your 7-day forecast. It is looking like this week we will be in the positives. Tomorrow we'll be at 0, and then Wednesday will be at 1, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are all sitting at 3 degrees, with that sun peaking out on Sunday, and then next Monday will be picking up to 7 degrees, but that is a look at your 7-day forecast. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Primetime Local News Late Edition. Have a great night.